weekend.
Okay, I'm singing it.
What's up, man? How everybody doing out there? This is your boy Big Ruck.
Brother Los, you forgot to say in YouTube land.
Oh, yeah. It's coming.
Brother Los.
Brother Ron here.
Brother Jam.
Boy Bishop.
And we are the Daily Smoke. Man, how y'all doing out there in YouTube land?
That's what it is.
Oh, man.
Man, glad everybody could make it back today, man. Everybody good?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Got
sir.
nothing to complain about. Life is good, brothers.
Man, that's a beautiful thing. Beautiful
Expensive,
thing,
but
man.
good.
We'll take it.
I'm trying to tell you.
Man, for real.
Every time you turn around, it's something else.
Boy,
Ain't it?
Boy.
So what y'all think about your boy, what's his name? Jussie Smollett?
Juicy?
Juicy. What is it? Juicy Smollett?
Juicy Smooth, yeah, man.
I heard about that, man, and honestly, dude, I really think he should have got more time.
I do too.
Because, I mean, come on. He tried to call himself the Black Tupac.
Are you for real?
I'm not lying, dude.
He raps.
He said the gay Tupac.
Yeah,
the black
for real.
Tupac.
Because his whole story is that he fought off the racist dudes that supposedly attacked him, right? And so he said, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to let them beat me. I'm going to fight back. And so I think he sings. And so he was at like a concert.
He's really talented.
Really?
Yes,
I never heard any of his music, so I don't
real
know.
talented. I watched the show he was on for a couple of seasons.
Empire, wasn't it?
Empire,
Yeah. So basically, his story is that he fought the dudes off, and then of course when he came out, he was like this super gay warrior. You know, at least in his mind, that's what he thought. So he was just gonna be like, okay, I'm the Black Tupac. He literally said that on stage.
The Black Tupac?
I mean, the gay Tupac.
Tupac.
I'm sorry. He said he's the gay Tupac. So yeah, he thought he was gonna have the beginning of his gangster.
You know what that sound like to me, man?
Was
if you ever watch Empire,
okay.
it sounds like he thought he was that character.
Oh really?
Really?
Yeah.
Is that character similar to Tupac?
Not really, but he's like he's the second oldest son in a family of 3 boys. Later on found out to be 4, but 3 boys, right?
Yeah.
And he's the second oldest and he's the most talented one, right? And he's gay. Well, he's kind of bisexual, but he's more gay. He's not opposed, but I'm just explaining to you like
The
his
character.
right? Because he's not opposed to women, right? Because he's had a girlfriend, but he prefers men, right?
Okay.
But the character he portrays, he's not feminine. He's none of that. Like he's what you would call a regular dude. If he didn't tell you he was gay, then you wouldn't be able. You wouldn't
just
know.
guess it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I know what you mean.
He fights like he. I mean, not everybody fights, but what I'm saying is, he can squad. He got hands in the show. He got hands. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So yeah.
And so it sounds like he thought that he was that character, dog.
He bought into his own BS.
Right. Right. That's what it sounds like to me, dog. What'd you say?
I said, right now I'm hearing Babylonian.
Right.
I have no clue what the fuck y'all are talking about. I heard about the dude that was on some show that mugged himself and now he's going to fucking jail. So that's it.
Yeah.
Other than that, y'all are like, y'all back there with Alexander the Great.
And the thing about it is, man, I had never ever heard of this dude before that TV
Thank
show.
you.
Right? I never heard of him before.
Didn't know who he was. I don't even watch
Still
Empire or anything like that. And I'd never heard of this dude. But that's what literally made you famous to a portion of the society.
It has to be. It has to be because I've never heard of him prior to that. Like the other people in the show, the only people that I know for a fact that I had heard of before is, of course, his mother, Taraji P. Henson, and his father, which is
Terrence Howard.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hopefully, wait a minute. That's his real mom and dad, Terrence
No,
Howard.
no.
Oh, okay.
That was his parents on
Yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
show.
Okay, I blacked out. I'm sorry. Okay, I went to my happy place and came back. I'm sorry, man. That's all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm
So
listening.
like literally, I mean, there's a few more, guests and stuff like that.
Different people,
But as
yeah.
far as the main cast,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I heard of the show because,
Yeah.
like you said, because those two were in it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I knew the show was a big deal, but since I never watched it, I had no idea who his character was.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of people knew who he was since that show was really popular. I don't think it's still on, right?
nah, I
It's
don't
not.
think it's on no more either.
So it's no longer syndicated. It's not in like another season.
I'm
or
sure
another
you can
coming
see
or
it
whatever.
Nah.
No, it went off. I think it finished, like a couple years ago.
Probably
Maybe.
stream it or something.
Or, well,
I don't know how it. I don't know. Like, I know I stopped watching like in the second season, towards the end of the second season, and I think it had. No, I take that back. Towards the beginning of the third season, I think it had maybe like 5 or 6 seasons or something like that.
oh, damn. So it was on
Yeah,
for a
it
while.
went on for a minute, man. But
Was it a good show?
it was pretty good, man. It was about music. They had built this music empire, and Terrence Howard, he was basically, you ever seen the movie that he did called Hustle and Flow?
But I know what you're talking about.
It's basically derived from that story.
Like part 2, huh?
Yeah, it's like, when they got,
Big time.
After you
big
pushed
time
that
and
bitch,
all
now
of
he
that.
really was up there.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what it is.
Got you.
Yeah. It's
And-
not that officially, but that's pretty much
Because
what
of
it
the
is.
with this cast.
Yeah,
So,
the
that's-
whole
that's
dynamic.
cool.
Yeah.
So, I remember Tupac. I never cared for Tupac's music, except
Yeah.
for maybe 1 or 2 songs out of his entire catalog.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I like Tupac way better and was a fan of his acting
Oh,
than his music.
yeah.
Um,
I thought you
I-
was gonna go ahead.
What you
go
thought I was
ahead.
gonna say?
Go ahead. I'll tell you when you finish.
I would like to know what was the correlation though that he made, or what was the grounds for the correlation that he made to say that he's the gay Tupac? That's what I would like
That's
to
a good
know.
question.
Right?
I would like to know that. Anybody got an answer?
That's
I
why I
would
asked if
argue.
he was
I
a
would like to
rapper or
know.
something. Because I didn't know who the fuck they talking about. Say some rapper dude? Or,
He's actually the singer.
Yeah,
He's a singer? Okay,
Yeah.
so he can
a
sing.
singer and an actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be like, from what I remember about Pac was he was an
fucking rebel.
activist. Huh?
Pretty much a rebel.
Yeah, he was a rebel.
Yeah.
He was an activist. He later in life became more of a black activist. His mom,
She's
Assata Shakur.
Black Panther.
Asada, she was a Black Panther, so he comes from a lineage of social activists.
Right.
No problem. I would like to know, why are you a gay Tupac?
Right.
Because I would have preferred, and I have no issue with the homosexual community on any level, especially when it comes to the rights they should be afforded in any society.
Right.
But you would have been better off saying, I'm a modern day, what's the gentleman that was a activist back in the 60s? He made the movie I'm Not Your Negro. And we didn't find out that he was homosexual until like years later, like towards the end of his life.
Baldwin?
Baldwin, thank you, brother. Thank you. Baldwin, what's his first name?
Charles
Baldwin?
I
Baldwin?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have preferred he said like I'm a modern Charles Baldwin, because Charles Baldwin, if that's his first name, Baldwin was an African American activist that was homosexual, and he had really no strong movement to address or support his lifestyle in terms of his sexual identification.
Right.
So I would have preferred you to be like, hey, I'm a modern day Baldwin. Because now you can pick up the manner where you left off from. You're already black. That's not why they supposedly attacked you. They attacked you because you're gay. So now you're gay and black. Baldwin didn't have anyone to speak up for him, especially out of the early Harlem Renaissance movement, to address the gay part in being black.
You're right.
Because in the early Harlem Renaissance, there were loads of black people that's now coming out that were homosexual, male, female, homosexual, that we admire to this day, but didn't find out till years later that they were homosexual because the culture at that time did not allow that within that particular community.
Right.
So I would like to know, if I ever met him, I'd like to know Why did you compare yourself to him?
Because he didn't know Baldwin, that's why.
That's so sad.
Act like he,
More than likely, though.
That's so sad.
He trying to be a thug.
That's so
thug.
sad. Yeah, are you a thug? You know what I mean? Or
Thought you
street
were
or
an actor,
whatever.
Yeah, actor or something.
I mean, I think thug is the new nigger word. But
Right.
anyway. Or you understand? That's the new word.
Oh yeah, that's how they use it in the news.
Are you living that lifestyle? And why? You got all the money and the men you want. You know what I'm saying? You got a TV show. You're famous or whatever. I don't understand. Why would you be the gay Tupac?
And from what I understand, that's what the judge even said at the trial, at the sentencing. Because I mean, he's literally doing, I think, like 18 months or something like that. So it's not like he was given a super long sentence. I mean, you falsely reported a crime. Okay, that's the gist of it. And he still won't admit his guilt. He still won't admit his guilt. So he was literally in the courtroom saying, like, I'm innocent, and if anything happens to me, I'm not suicidal. Like, okay, dude, nobody's out to kill you, dude. You know.
He's suicidal.
Like, he's saying, I'm not suicidal. Like, like he thinks somebody gonna what was your boy? Epstein. He thinks somebody gonna Epstein him in jail. Like, dude, you're not that important. So
Really,
he's trying to act like he's being persecuted in some form or fashion. But the judge was like, dude, you're just a narcissist. You're basically you did all of this just to make yourself more famous. You didn't need the money. You already had a successful career. You just did this because you could, because you wanted to, basically. And so that's why the judge made him go to jail, because they say normally if somebody with his, you know, in his income bracket shouldn't see jail, he should get probation. But the judge made him made him actually go is making him actually serve jail time.
He needs to serve jail time, and he needs to do the whole time. But you know, he ain't gonna do that.
He
whole
mugged
thing.
himself. Yeah, go to jail for that. For being
But
stupid.
didn't the dudes that
What happened to them?
that acted like they were mugging him or something? Didn't they come forth?
Yeah, the guys who he hired to mug him,
And they were black, right?
Yeah, they were black.
Black dudes.
2 African dudes, as a matter of
Right.
fact. And supposedly when they beat him, they was telling him like, "Oh, we're gonna beat your black ass" or something like that. And this is MAGA country. He said that they was wearing MAGA hats.
That's so unfortunate.
Oh man,
With brothers.
It
saying
was-
that
We
shit.
covered
It's
covered
stupid.
this shit when it happened. Back
I
in
remember,
the days,
yeah,
in
we
the
talked
earlier,
about it.
and then
What?
the earlier Daily Smoke days. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we talked. I think we did mention it here too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we actually like talked about it, man. I remember Oslo was here with us, man. We not here, but you know, at the other spot, and we was talking about it then, man. And I remember it had something to do with he said that somebody sent him a threatening letter while he was on the set of Empire.
Oh
Talking
yeah,
about-
I do remember hearing about
talking
that.
about they were gonna kill him, some type of threatening letter, and then so he used that as a springboard for the rest of the bullshit.
I remember, and they were already suspicious of that when
Right,
he did
right.
the other thing.
Right.
So it's just like, dude, what are you doing?
That dude is he got problems, bro.
Who knows? Jail time might do him some good.
News update. Just Smollett. Well, I'm going by what they should call
Jussie
it.
Smollett.
But what's his name?
Did you say what?
Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett was just released from jail
Was he?
15 minutes ago.
You lied.
He was released from jail 15 minutes ago because. Okay, gotcha. So, Dr. O. So, he was just released about 15 minutes ago because the duration that he would have, the time that he would serve in jail was a certain number. By the time his case and appeal is met, he would have already served the amount of time by the time the appeal would have been made and completed, which was nullified everything.
Right.
So they released him on bail or whatever it is they do. I've never been in jail, so I don't know the right terminology. But they released him so that however much time that passes would not count towards time served. So once he goes and he makes the appeal and they order him to jail, you now have to do the time of the sentence. Instead of you doing the time now, we keep you in custody. And by the time the appeal is made and heard and maybe granted, we gotta let you go.
Right.
And the amount of money that he paid for that, I think, was about $150,000 roughly. So we're back to the question of not only do we have to address racial issues and injustice, and justice, not injustice, but and justice, and not only do we need to address the unfair treatment of homosexuals in our society, but we also now have to analyze how much justice and what type of justice do you receive if you are not an affluent individual in this country.
And that's the key.
That's the question.
That's the key. Because all of this, even though he is black, even though he is gay, he is getting away with stuff that if it was you or me, we wouldn't be able to get away with because we don't have the funds to throw at it that he has. He's got those lawyers. What's your boy? The quarterback here for the Texans. Watson. He's and I have no judgment on whether or not the brother did it, or if he's guilty of anything or not. But the sheer fact that he's been able to just hold off everything for this long, and I've seen interviews with his lawyer on the news. I know that I've seen that dude's face before in some other major cases. He can't be cheap.
Wow.
So you're keeping you spending your money in the right places at the very least because you're keeping yourself out of jail. But you get a completely different different operating justice system.
Absolutely.
When you have money versus when you don't.
Absolutely. And I gotta be real with y'all, man. Like with Jussie Smollett.
Yeah. Close
enough. Thank y'all. And I want to be respectful. I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to be funny and make fun of him. So I would like to pronounce his name properly.
He juicy to me. The juicy smooth.
So I think the real tragedy is on two fronts.
Yeah.
They are on two fronts. The first one is black people or people of color in this country are already having a hard enough time to prove the existence of racism to individuals that deny that fact of American reality. Mm-hmm. We didn't need this. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, just as equally important and just as equally of a disservice, it's the same thing in reverse when white people in the 60s and prior would kill black people, or they would say they were raped, and they would always blame it on a slave, a black person, chased me, raped me, or what have you. So that started to put an idea in the American public's mind of the characterizations to associate with people of color in this country.
Right.
You just did that to white people. That's not fair. Because if you're gonna hold them accountable for what they have done and continue to do, to a more or lesser degree of any other race on this planet, we don't need you to misconstrue the evidence.
Right.
Be fair. So don't create stereotypes towards white people that may not be applicable. That's unfair to them. Can they survive it a lot easier and better than us for the most part? Absolutely.
Sure.
But that ain't what we're talking about. We're talking about fairness, social justice, and criminal justice. Mm-hmm. That's the issue. That's so unfortunate. That is so unfortunate.
It's like he took the ground that two separate groups have been trying to gain as far as being black and being gay.
Right.
Those are two marginalized groups, and so any gains that may have been made in those groups over the last even just few years, last decade, as far as getting people to understand the issues and problems that we deal with and trying to take the stuff seriously. And this happened, I want to say it was 2019. So this was, I think, right before the whole George Floyd thing.
Wow.
So it was right before then. But you take any ground that those two marginalized groups have gained and you erase half of that.
Right.
Because now all the ones who say, oh, y'all exaggerating, it's not that bad, y'all just, y'all misunderstood, it was something else and blah, 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 blah. now they have ground to stand on. When other black folks say, hey man, you know, these people attacked me, or these people did something to me, or unless you got it on video, you know, unless you got it on camera, thankfully now you do start to see more of that stuff actually caught on camera. But he destroyed that.
Absolutely.
Or
he damaged it.
He damaged
Exactly.
it. That's
He
the
damaged
correct word. Yes, thank you. But yeah, he damaged it. It's a sad situation.
And that's, but and you know what's really killing about, I know this ain't the main topic, but I mean, we smart people, and you can look at things deeper than what's being presented. What it's really speaking to is, it's not a race issue, of course, because that's not why he said he was beat up. He was beat up because he said of his sexual orientation, or that's what he alluded to, because that was the reason he was attacked.
Right.
Okay. The problem I also have with that is, you're still putting everybody that is non-homosexual in the violence box.
Right.
Yeah.
What you're saying is, there's still this behavior of violence of non-homosexuals, which is true. We have, as a whole in a society, we were very violent towards those individuals of that category, just like we were previously as a nation and a society.
Right.
What you're saying is, now there has really been not too much movement in that area, and that yes, homosexuals are still at risk of being, harmed, bodily, intellectually, social, in terms of your social capital. Yes, they are still, at risk of that. They haven't made a lot of movement, but you're still at risk of it. But that's not what you did. You said, man, I was a victim of violence. And I think we've come a ways in terms of accepting alternative lifestyles as a whole. You just set us back. So now you put in the mind of the homosexual community, they still violent towards us. You just put in the mind of the non-homosexual community, a lot of y'all are violent towards us. That's a problem for me. It's the same argument of the individual that is a person of non-color, if you will, white, if you want to use that term. If you juxtapose race over this, then what you just heard was, hey man, we still lynching black people. Not that they're not, but we don't see it as frequent.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about black people, they're the recipients of this violence, man, they still out here killing us. They still shooting us, with the police. They still lynching us. Not that they aren't, but it's not to the degree of before legislation came into place and started protecting or trying to protect us from certain acts. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that's the real issue and the real injustice, done in this particular situation on his behalf.
You know what I think he really damaged, man? I think he damaged the validity of people who do actually, who are actually victims of those type of crimes. Definitely. I think he did more damage to that, because now, like you said earlier, unless you got it on video and somebody hollers, this is what happened, that's one of the first things they're gonna think about.
Yeah.
Where's the evidence?
I think that's where he did a lot of damage.
Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, I think one of the brothers during the last show asked the question, why is it so difficult to persecute, much less indict, individuals for hate crimes? The reason that is because when you talk about hate, you're talking about an attitude.
Right.
So it's harder to prove in a court of law that a particular behavior was conducted from the basis of a prejudicial attitude towards your particular race. It would be easier to indict you and persecute you for the act you conducted without regard to the reason why you did it. We want to punish you for the crime and not the intent, not your reason. We just, whether you was killed because you was a black man, whether you was killed because you were, already being a victim of spousal abuse, we're not gonna put you in jail because you beat a woman. We're gonna put you in jail because you beat another human being. We're gonna put you in jail because you beat another human. If you're going to prove that I did this and I normally wouldn't do this to under normal circumstances to another human being, and I have to now include my attitude towards the victim, that's a whole lot harder to prove in a court of law, because now not only are lawyers smarter, but the populace is a little bit smarter now.
Yeah.
So that becomes a little bit harder and contentious to prove in a court of law.
Just as a side note, that's how they managed to convict the guys who killed Ahmaud Arbery, is because they actually had text message, social media posts.
Exactly.
They had family members and stuff like that who came forward and said, yeah, he talks all the time about how much he hates niggas, you know.
Exactly.
So they were able to prove that in that case because they were able to get that kind of background information. It sucks that you're not able to get that though, like you said, in most situations, because it's just too much. It's too difficult of a way to prove that intent.
To your point, the last episode when we discussed that, what got him was the character witnesses. Not even so much the act, because he had already been left off they had already escaped prosecution for the act prior.
Right.
That's why they weren't in jail. That's why they weren't sentenced, because you did the act. I would have rather justice had served its purpose because you committed the act, but you got off of the act because of who you did it to. So now justice has to bring in the characterization of the individuals that committed this act, and that's what got you. But if you don't have the character information to prove why you did what you did, look how hard it is to prove that a hate crime was committed. That's why it's so hard, my brother. That's why it's so hard. Yeah. So you just did all of that to the homosexual community. Jussie Smollett, or Smollett, whatever his name is. See, now it's in there.
Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett. Thank you, brother. I remember that now. Jussie Smollett. I got you.
They gonna like Juicy Smollett in jail.
Yes.
That's another thing a lot of people have been saying too. It's like, oh, you're putting him in danger by being a gay male and putting him in jail.
You're at home.
Right. But he don't want to call him Smoothie.
No. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I say that, man. I'm not hating on homosexuals. I'm not, man. But I got to tell you, it's an interesting statistic that a lot of people don't know. Man, the American penal system is first and foremost responsible above all other institutions for the promotion of male homosexuality. Because you have so many individuals that are male that are put in penal systems separate from women, they have to take those sexual behaviors somewhere. So if you're in a penal state and you're putting a lot of individuals in jail, you're putting males, that is, and females on their end. When you put all of them in jail and separate the sexes, sex is not going to go away. It just has to go somewhere. You understand? Yeah. And soon enough, there are a lot of individuals that have high sex drives. They start looking towards individuals of the same sex under circumstances where they're confined. And, them pleasing themselves by, we're talking sexuality, by ejaculation, masturbation, or what have you, that can only go so far.
Right.
So you're going to want another human being because that's a part of that's how we're hardwired in terms of our sex. Now, whatever direction that go, that's up for debate. But sex is not going anywhere. Right. So the largest contributor to that behavior is the penal system, because they're putting so many men in there.
Look at the name, man.
I was just about to say it.
There y'all go again. There y'all go again. There y'all get your dirty mind.
You know how we talk about how they've already have everything already set up. That's why they call it that.
Oh, Jesus.
That's it's funny because we were just talking about what words mean, and they call this shit
absolutely.
Penal
system.
That's
look at this.
That's a good
segue right
into what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. I'd like to know. I'd like to ask the question to Brother John, man. Jam, what made you choose this as a topic, man? And you can just take us from there.
Basically, okay, I'm sure y'all have probably seen it. Like, they interview like these Trump supporters at the rallies and stuff like that. And then, of course, I see other stuff online as well. Just people talking about things, and once you start listening to what they're saying, you realize, oh, you don't really understand what that means.
Okay.
Like, you're talking about a subject, but you don't really understand. Like, easy example, big subject in the news now for no real reason. CRT.
Yeah.
People talk about critical race theory left and right. You hear it on the news all the time. But What these people are actually passing laws for, what these people are actually banning, is not CRT.
Right.
CRT is a college level legal course that you take that examines, and hold on, I want to say this right. CRT is an intellectual and social movement and loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural biological grounded feature of physical distinct subgroups of human beings, but a socially constructed category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color. That's not what's being taught in K through 12 schools. Nobody in a K through 12 situation is teaching children critical race theory.
That's right.
What you're banning is the teaching of accurate history.
Right.
You're whitewashing history literally whitewashing history right in front of our eyes and blaming it on something that you don't even know what you're talking about. And like I said, I saw an interview with a Trump supporter in one of these news programs, and it was basically they asked the person like, oh, what are you here to protest or something like that, and he was like, yeah, I don't support that CRT. They need to get that out of schools. And the person just asked, well, what is CRT? Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, well, I don't really understand it well enough to explain it to you, but I know I don't like it. Basically, is what the dude said. Mm-hmm. And then like, how can you be against something and you don't even understand what it is?
You see that a lot too, man. Especially dealing with CRT.
And so that's where the idea kind of came to me. It's like, I wonder if, it might be something useful. I don't know if anybody out here, who's watching the show might be wondering. I don't know if everybody understands just some common terms that we hear a lot, thrown around in the news and in media and stuff like that. And so things like that, I was just kind of wondering if it might be able to help somebody out if we give a few explanations and maybe talk about them for a little bit. If nothing else, just like if there was somebody out there who didn't understand really what CRT was, maybe they understand it a little bit better now. Hopefully, it maybe reaches a conservative or two and they'll understand you're not really fighting what you think you're fighting. Mm-hmm. And once you understand what you're actually fighting against, you might not want to fight against it, because how can you be against teaching history?
Right.
True. Because I run things and I don't want y'all to know this shit. Because you're not going to change it. There's more of me than you. So, like I always say, you want things to change, you got to beat me.
I think that it's more of that than it is actual ignorance.
I'm not going to try to. Yeah, it's not the ignorance. It's why would I want my own people start to turn on me too?
Well,
I can't have that.
In terms of lawmaking, anyway, the people out there that's protesting, yeah.
And ignorance. One of the things that I've seen discussed a lot is, like, you think about it. Prime example, our president Joe Biden. He was alive during the civil rights era. He was according to his own, description as himself when he was running for president, he was a young man, probably in his late teens, early 20s at that time. And so you were either, and we have a whole generation of people like that still walking around, and those were the people who were out there spitting on little girls trying to go to school, who were protesting at beating black people at counters. That generation is still around, and they don't want their grandkids looking at pictures of them. Hey, that's Papa when he was little. In my textbook, throwing a Molotov cocktail in this black barbershop. You know what I'm saying? They don't want that image of themselves out there, but that's what y'all did.
Too bad. I can't have my children thinking I'm bad. So I have to shut that down. I'm sure it is.
I think it's deeper than that. Let's reorient ourselves to what the show is about, and then let's apply it to all the terms that Brother Jam said we would talk about and discuss. So we're talking about words, their meaning, their origin, and their application. And all three of those can change at any given time, because language is a living entity in terms of how we define and understand language and grammar.
Okay.
Because by the time it's born, and by the time it evolves, and by the time it reaches you, just like a child or any particular culture in history, those cultures evolve and change over time. Language does the same thing, right?
Right.
an important part of language is there are two components that comprise language. You have language is linear and it has depth. It's linear in terms of what you said. Its depth is what you meant.
Okay.
All right. The linear part, you don't need any explanation. It's what you said. What you meant is what's up for discussion and debate, and it's what really tugs at people a whole lot when you have two people that heard the same sentence and got two different meanings from it.
Right.
All right. Now that we got that part out the way, because that is the basic premise of this show, and I hope we have enough time to cover all the terms that you meant. That you put forward. Let's look at critical race theory. Now, if you all understand everything that we just said, now let's talk about critical race theory. Absolutely. All of you said important consequences of what critical race theory involves. Mm-hmm. You gave an excellent example of the definition, the pure definition of critical race theory. Unless I read wrong and heard wrong, I didn't hear anything about black people.
Right.
The two components, before I say this, but you see a lot of white people and black people at odds on this issue. But you never heard the theory talking specifically about any particular race by name.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's talk about critical race theory. The issue is, it's based on a premise, as you said, that race is not a natural, biological, grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings, but a socially constructed. Social construction means it's invented to fit a particular group, society of people that live in a specific area at a specific time. Right. That's social constructionism as it pertains to humans. Its categorization is used to oppress and exploit people of color. Let's deal with that part in reverse. That's a fact. It doesn't mean that critical race theory only applies to black people. We already got that out the way by its definition. Right. It's indicting the United States society that your laws that are in place are favored toward those that are in power. And when you look at those that are in power and also have the wealth, there are distinct racial divisions amongst those that are represented all throughout those dynamics. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
That is the issue that most, as we would say, and we're going to cover this, most conservatives have, because they don't believe in racism, because they believe that the Constitution, with its amendments, are applicable to all. Right. That's another conversation. But that's what they believe. Right. Yeah. But that's what they believe. Let's stick to the subject.
Okay.
All right. That's part of the reason why they disagree with it. With critical race theory. Another reason that they disagree with it is because there's a saying in the black community specifically. In America, you're going to always be a
nigga.
Right? The first part of critical racist theory definition is the important part. It's framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural, biological, grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings. Mm-hmm. That is the most important part. If I can deal with that and push that ideology onto the people, everything else will fall away. Mm-hmm. That's right. See, don't push critical race theory because it indicts a certain group for what they did historically. Truth be told, everybody has kicked everybody's butt at some point in time. It has differed in degree and kind. Right. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the basic premise. Right. Hey man, as long as there's been some kind of identity, as long as there's been some kind of power, as long as there's been some kind of wealth, everyone has been subjugated to some degree. Right. But you're less inclined to do that when you understand that race is a social construction. I would invite anyone that's looking at the show, please read a book by Kenneth Gergen. It's called Social Constructionism. Constructionism. Thank you. I'm not drunk.
For me.
Right. Social Constructionism by Kenneth Gergen. It's an excellent book. Study social construction. because you'll learn a whole lot about how we have been classified and limited as human beings, and it retards our development as a species going forward. So I would say, when I see that kind of pushback, I think that people that are considered to be white or black people that don't understand the theory, when I see that kind of pushback, I see a person that really believes that there are clear, distinct racial classifications. That's a problem. In America, the fundamental reason why they push back on it is because they think you're a Marxist. See, we're going to talk about that also tonight. See, that's why I wanted to say, hey man, we got to stick to the subject. But you have to understand CRT's grounding, its root, its etymology, if you will.
Right.
It comes out of Marxism.
Right.
Marxism is the basis for communism.
Right.
It comes out of Marxist critical theory, which deals with power and wealth.
Right.
So whenever you see people, whether you black or white in this country, and they're like saying, "Hey man, I'm against critical race theory," they could be arguing you from an economic, political point of view,
Right.
and they're very well within their right. If you're going to say and disqualify CRT based on the political, economic invalidity, because if it's invalid because of economic and political reasons, because it's based out of Marxism, which gives rise to communism, I'm with you.
But see, the problem
I'm with you.
man, the problem is, you're absolutely right, 100%. The problem is, when you go and you see most of these people who are opposing critical race theory, they never mention that.
Absolutely.
Because they don't understand what it is.
I would rather you did.
Exactly. What they literally speak about the majority of the overwhelming majority of the time is the fact that if you teach this in class, it's going to make black people feel that they don't have no hope, and it's going to make white people feel guilty because now they have to live by what their ancestors did. That's what you hear them using as an opposition to critical race theory. And that is why, just like in the first show, I said back then, they don't fucking understand what it is.
But, and I think this might be to Ron's point, you have to think about it in the term that, okay, the common guy, everyman, didn't come up with critical race theory as their boogeyman on their own.
Right.
That was fed to them. That was given to them as a term to back and protest against and hate, and it was pumped up in the media, it was pumped up by politicians. So in that respect, the whole protest, whatever you want to call it, the whole outcry against it, that could be orchestrated, in other words, from that socioeconomic level that he's talking about.
That's true.
Yeah, because they know what CRT is, and they know what that the roads that opens up, and so basically they're looking at it from the perspective like, no, we need to get these people behind hating this, and we don't care if they don't understand it, but we just need them to understand that these three words, when you put them together, are bad.
Right.
And that's what they know.
I'm in absolutely 100% agreement with everything both of you said, and I believe there's something in the Bible that says, above all things, get an understanding.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And whether you believe in religion or not, I think that is a fundamental truth.
Yeah.
In terms of knowledge and social progress. And it's your ignorance. You punish people out of your ignorance, but you're also punished by your ignorance.
Right.
This brother just said, it's Brother Burley, thank you for joining us. He says it's the Zionist approach to politics. The reason I'm not going to answer that question is for the same reason why we still have a whole lot of terms to get through during this show. Because I would like to honestly do an entire show on Zionism and anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I would love to do, and it fits this category of what we're talking about right now.
Okay.
So I would love to do a show on that. But getting back to the point, hey man, y'all absolutely correct. That's the issue with critical race theory. not you specifically, individuals that disagree with it, most of them did not do their homework. And I find you should be expelled from this class. At the very least, you're going to get an F in society.
Right.
Not because of your position. You didn't do your homework. Right. And you went out talking to other people, influencing other people, when there's no excuse for you to be ignorant. We have libraries that are unmanned. We have the internet, and we got Google. So at the very least, most of us in this room and our watching audience used one of those three methods or college to learn anything and everything you've learned in life. And you mean to tell me out of all of those resources available, you didn't utilize one of them, but you're going to sit up here and talk to us about whether this is good or bad. Right. Next topic.
Right.
That's true though.
What are the words we covered?
Let's see.
Capitalism.
I was going to say.
Let's go to capitalism.
We can go to capitalism.
Let's do it. Let's go.
So I kept the definition that I looked up for that one was I went for the simple one because I wanted to try to boil it down to a core.
Make it easy.
Right.
Absolutely. Bro.
And under capitalism, what I was able to find was an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. So we could all agree that that's accurate as far as what we understand of capitalism.
I think it's a consequence. It's not capitalism.
Okay.
But I want to hear you all's point of view. I've been talking enough. I want to hear you all's point of view.
Well, in my review, looking at this, I was just thinking to myself, well, it tells you right there in the explanation in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners. So, no, I'm sorry, a economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. That sums it up right there, because it's letting you know that the government and everything in a capitalist system is going to be controlled by these private owners for profit. And that's exactly what we wind up having. Now, some people might call that an oligarchy, but
it's a whole nother word.
In America, in America,
another show.
You're right. That's volume 2. But some people might call that an oligarchy, but we call it capitalism. And I'm trying to understand, do people really realize that this system is designed to have us at a certain level of poverty, to keep the population that lives below the poverty level
absolutely
at the broadest possible scale that they can keep it. They need to keep their thumb on it because that's how they make their profits. And so that's what we actually have. And I'm wondering, capitalism in and of itself, it's designed to have this outcome. It's just that now it's gotten to a point where we're starting to realize it's untenable.
What I got here from this byjuice.com, it says capitalism.
Smollett. Juice Smollett.
Is that
he got his own website.
And he's a capitalist.
Damn.
But it says the ideology of capitalism is maximization of profit by any means necessary. It also believes in laissez-faire. A philosophy, laissez-faire, a philosophy that emphasizes on leaving circumstances as they run their natural course without any external intervention. That's the ideology of what I got here.
Okay,
so
that's interesting.
In other words, just let things happen, and if you make money, you make money. If not, that's on y'all.
That's what they call the open market, or letting the market decide.
The free market.
Right. If you produce a better widget than the next man, then you'll be the one who makes the most money, and the market will dictate that because people will buy your product.
That's what it says here for economic planning. In capitalist societies, the economy is planned as per the function of the free markets.
The basic assumption in that definition, when it says let it take its natural course, it's assuming there's fairness.
Right.
Because we only need look at monopolies and how monopolies stay in place.
Right.
And so why you have to have the SEC and other commissions to break up monopolies.
Right.
Because if we're going to have a free market, a free open market, there has to be some sense of competitive fairness. So that's why monopolies, for the most part, other than government, aren't allowed. Right?
Right.
But again, I argue.
Even though they still do it.
I argue, and it is the natural course of things, and that's actually part of my argument that I'll make. But I would say that's still a consequence of capitalism. That's not the definition. What would be your position on that? Because I have a point. I would like to know.
The basic definition, basically, you know, from my understanding, is, you know, to make money. Let's just leave it like that, right? To make money. When you look at the etymology of the word capitalism, it comes from capital, you know, which is basically a Latin, right? A Latin word, you know what I'm saying? And it basically like capita, like per capita, head, per individual. You know what I'm saying? And head is also congruent the way they used it back then, capita with chattel. And it was basically used just for cattle back in the days. You know
counting
what I'm
like
saying?
your
For
livestock.
counting, exactly,
Yeah.
per capita, per individual lot, you know,
Cow,
whatever
ox,
whatever
you
it
might
is,
have, yeah,
right?
goats.
So, you know, when you think in terms of the United States, or when I'll speak for myself. When I speak in when I think in terms of how the United States operates, you know, and I think of the word capital, and I think of its capitalism, and I think of its etymology, and I sit here and I think of all of the individuals in the United States per capita, and how the country will use them, so to speak, to make money on a very basic level. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
On a very basic level, and that's what I think. That's how I think the term is used today on the most basic level, the most basic way I can explain it.
So, thank you for that, brother, because you're absolutely correct. All of you are. Our understanding of capitalism, which is we're going to cover, is really understood from the basis of a comparative analysis to other economic theories.
Right.
When you start looking at other economic theories, the major leading opposition to capitalism in terms of our modern, and I would argue the last 100 years, our modern notions and understanding of capitalism is communism. That's what made Karl Marx's manifesto so interesting. To understand Marxism and communism as alternatives, and they're really more government and wealth in terms of like that, the way that they're constructed and the way that they're argued. They're really more of a marriage of politics and money as a alternative to capitalism. And capitalism is strictly an economic model. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay. If you look at the consequences of capitalism, that is not the difference between capitalism and communism. The fundamental difference, or should I say rather, the definition of capitalism is, y'all, I really mean this. Y'all, I read a book called, and I rank this book for me. I rank this book up there with the Bible, the Quran, the Gita, the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh, damn.
I rank this book up here with, there are plenty other books, Newton and the Laws of Physics, and you know how he explained gravity and all of that. Like what I'm about to tell you, I read this book and it totally changed my mind in many ways.
Okay.
There was a sociologist by the name of Max Weber. He was a German sociologist. Last name spelled not V, but W-E-B-E-R. So it's Max Weber. Max Weber is a sociologist in the late 19th century. Did research on capitalism. He wrote a book that is primarily that's responsible or I shouldn't say responsible, it's primarily an insight into understanding the current practices of the American economic system under capitalism.
Right.
It's not inventing anything, it's actually highlighting the facts of it.
Okay.
And one of the highlights that he made, and the book is called The Protestant Work Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Weber did something that was very interesting. Weber looked at the origins of the Protestant Reformation under Martin Luther.
Right.
And he looked at the work practices that resulted from the Protestant Reformation.
Okay.
As a result of that, that is why we work 6 days a week, if not 7 in some cases. For us, we consider that work model to be as natural as water. 5-day work week, cool. I think it's unnatural, but if you're going to have a strong economy, you're going to have, if not 5 days, in terms of a 24-hour clock, you're going to need that type of economic, or should I say, workforce effort made to produce economic profits.
Right.
That came from specifically the Protestant work ethic.
Okay.
He looked at capitalism. Weber made a very good observation. The world and the business world would never have made any kind of progress that it has made unless profits was a driving motivator. Whether you sold camels, whether you sold cigarettes, rest in peace, Eric Garden. Whatever you didn't do that so you could break even. If you did that so you could break even, you could never build your business. See, when we talk about it, we're like, damn, that makes sense. But we come from these underlying assumptions that we really don't understand or analyze, which is why this brother brought this to our conversation.
Right.
What Weber did was he understood that the old model of mercantilism, which is, hey, we don't have a standard issue of exchange in our economic system. You know, the Romans used the coin. You know, certain Asiatic societies used the coin. But a lot of, especially agrarian cultures, they said, I'll trade you 5 cows for one bull. So now the market really is not standardized. It's mercantile. So if you need a duck and I got some strawberries, I'm gonna give you about 10 strawberries for that whole duck. Yeah, but this duck can do this and that and the other. Now look at how we got a bargain.
Right.
So now you understand what I'm saying?
20 strawberries.
Now 20, there we go. So 20
Right.
strawberries.
Right.
All right, cool. So now the standard on the market is 1 duck, 20 strawberries. Well, hell, these strawberries are this big, not this big.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. So now I can't give you 20 of these,
Right.
right? That's the problem of mercantilism and the absence of a coin and a standard unit of measurement in economic exchange. If we agree that capitalism is as natural, then we have to understand, then what really makes capitalism different from everything else if the consequences are as natural to come from that mode of economic inquiry and those types of ventures? Here's the difference. Max Weber laid this out. He said, man, the difference is capitalism was the first economic market in history to institute accounting.
Okay.
1 minute warning.
Thank you, sir. Accounting. The mercantiles now could say, all right, I just gave 20 strawberries to this dude's duck. Let me write that down. Now, in order for me to build this business, how can I sell 18 strawberries for a duck? So now you're taking standards and weight measures and you're saying, okay, so that I can get a profit, how much can I cut here, this margin, to maximize the result or the outcome here? That's basic capitalism. Right. Basic capitalism is not the abuses of it. Basic capitalism is not the fact that we have a dying, I might say, a middle class. That's not what separates capitalism. Those are consequences of it. Mm-hmm. Capitalism, and when I talk to most people, and most of them are Marxists and communists at heart, When I talk to them, I say, capitalism this, capitalism that. What is capitalism? They start talking consequences. You don't understand capitalism. What makes capitalism different from X, Y, and Z? You don't understand capitalism. All you have to say was accounting. Then you'd have had my attention. Because that is the fundamental difference of capitalism from all other economic markets. If you're going to call for economic reform, make sure that you understand that accounting is a part of every economy. But it started with capitalism. If you want to get rid of capitalism, state the fact you have an issue with the consequences and the abuses thereof. But don't replace capitalism.
Right.
Be in favor of it. Who wants to work to break even?
Right.
That's why we're having this brother's conversation today. So now the next time you have a conversation with someone and they say, man, I'm a socialist. That's cool, but you don't like capitalism? No. Okay, when you go to work tomorrow, I want you to tally up how much your bills are on a monthly basis. I want you to tally up exactly what it's going to cost you to eat at the most basic level, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever those basic needs in your life are, I want you to ask your next employer or demand from your next employer, pay me that number, because anything else that you may be worth is of no consequence, because you're not a capitalist. A capitalist says, man, I'm gonna do some accounting measures and I'm gonna have to come out on top on some level. I need a profit in this. I'm not trying to break even. I'm not trying to just survive. I want to thrive and flourish.
Right.
That's why I wanted you brothers to go first, because a lot of people don't understand the Protestant work ethic when coupled with the spirit of capitalism. Not capitalism, the spirit of capitalism.
Right.
The spirit of capitalism is I want more than what I put in.
Profit.
Out of it. That's the spirit.
I want to get more for less.
And it's based off of accounting. Capitalism is the next evolutionary cognitive jump in man, coming from agrarian, mercantilistic models to I want a big house and some bling and some fine women on my shoulder. I don't want to just get by.
Right.
It's not that all of those things in and of themselves have worth. It's that I want that in addition to my basic needs.
Right.
That's my whole point regarding capitalism. And I would love to have that debate with anyone that says that that's not the truth, because you can have, I've read a whole lot of refutations against Weber's inquiry, but none of them has stood the test of time, because Max Weber died in the early 1900s, 20s, I think. He came from Germany, went to New York and died. And his theory still holds to this very day.
According to what I had here, from that byjus.com, it says, why is capitalism preferred? It says capitalism with all its warts is the preferred economy system to bring masses out of poverty and to make them productive citizens in our country and in countries around the world. It says, remember, capitalism rewards merit, socialism rewards mediocrity. That's how he ended it. So I guess he was going between, which is another word, socialist.
Let's talk about socialism then.
So according to what they say, we still prefer this.
This brother here said, man, we need to know what we're talking about. And I think socialism was one of the words.
Yes.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Socialism. Okay. So socialism, what I found, was a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned and regulated by the community as a whole.
My man here broke it down.
Okay.
From each, their ideology is from each according to his ability to each according to his contribution. That's how he put it.
Okay.
That was the definition of socialism.
That's what the ideology of socialism.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the ideology behind it.
Yeah. You put in, you get. You put
Pretty
in
much.
a lot, you get a lot. You put in a little, you get a little.
Because
that's what my man said here.
ultimately the way I understand it is, so like, say for example, how now we have I work for a company that's privately owned.
Okay.
Okay. And in a socialist society, there would be no private ownership of the company. You could still have private ownership of like personal property, or like your home or something like that. But if not, You could be even provided home, a place to live if you don't have your own place. You're provided a place to live as a basic necessity. Okay, so then, I lost my point.
It's a good weed, ain't
You got 5 minutes to talk about it.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
it? Now you want to call it.
Hey, look. The terminology I grew up with, it ain't gonna never go away, whether or not I still carry the beliefs.
Yes, sir. I'm
So,
messing with yourself.
But oh man, I've so lost my point. But socialism, in and of itself, it allows the opportunity for basic needs to be met. So, say for example, and again, this is my understanding of it. Say for example, you have a job, but you receive a certain amount of money each month, or just say you're given a place to live, a basic level of income in order to be able to provide for your just basic needs, cover food, place to live, clothes on your back, that kind of thing, whether or not you have a job. And if you do have a job, or you have you have a regular job, then that money becomes above and beyond what you get as a standard, so you can have luxuries.
Right.
If your basic needs are met, then you can still work for more things. But, and of course, the more successful you are at what you might do, then the more things you can have on top of that basic. But at a certain point, if your income goes over a certain level, you lose that basic, because now you're basically considered to be at a level where you're self-sufficient.
Excellent explanation.
Yeah. So that's kind of my understanding as far as socialism is concerned. Now, of course, that seems, in comparison to capitalism, almost like night and day, because you alleviate a lot of that private ownership, and that anything that a company might make is profit that essentially is shared through the community, instead of being in like we have it now, in the hands of just a few.
All right, 3-minute warning.
All right. So listen, man, we still have about five terms left, right? We can either tackle those on another show,
Part 2.
you know what I'm saying, and have a part 2.
Can we start from socialism? Because I don't think we adequately explored
Yeah,
that.
I'm
No.
about to say that'll be the next show. We'll start from
Yeah,
that
we
point.
might have
Okay.
to we
That's
might
the
have to
teaser,
do that on part
socialism.
2.
Tune in for
So
part
we'll come back to that, because we definitely want to have that discussion.
Cool.
But apparently this was a good idea,
Yeah,
because
most
it gives us a
definitely.
chance to talk about a lot of different things.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we're about, teaching people things that we might know, and hopefully they teach us what they know.
Right,
So
and
that's
that's
what we're about,
learning
man.
also.
Trying to just get that information out there.
And Brother Ron,
I got to learn how to speak up. Is that what he's saying? Oh, my bad.
but you know, you just cool like that, Los. That's just
You know, I got to get my own mic and see.
you laid back like that, Los.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have to get like OTW, dog.
Fast.
You know what I'm saying? We have to get like OTW, man.
Oh.
we get them microphones.
And Brother Ron, thank you, because your depth of knowledge on certain subjects never ceases to amaze me, brother, and I do appreciate you for that. You are one well-read brother, man, and I really appreciate that.
Man, I appreciate those accolades, and I can only, first and foremost, I thank God for having right mind, because there are a lot of people that don't have theirs.
True.
The second person I would like, with that in mind, the second person that I first and foremost want to thank is my mother. My mother at a very young age, she didn't tell me this. You could damn near call it abuse. She instilled in me, whenever I would hear a big word and like how it sounded, would use it inappropriately, whether I did it in public or whether I did it in private, that's where she addressed the infraction, and she would say, run. Because everybody else know that what I said was, I don't think that means what you think that runs. You understand?
Right.
So what she would do is say, Ron, I would rather for people to think I'm a fool than to open my mouth and remove all doubt. That is why I love knowledge and the application of it.
Right.
But further than that, man, I got to be honest with you all, and I mean this, and you all will see for yourself. I have been around people, especially when I lived in England. I lived around people that were so smart, I shut up. And one of those, actually two of those individuals, one of you already met. That was Michelle. I don't really talk around Michelle because Michelle is so brilliant. Like I was just find where I can jab. I ain't trying to go from knockout. You go from knockout, you out. You know what I mean? The other person, man, is Dr. O. She will be on our show. We're trying to work out when we can get her in and what we're going to talk about, etc.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm telling you right now, man, and she's humble with it. But I'm telling you right now, man, when you're around Dr. O, she is so brilliant that wherever you go, not only will she be able to address it, she can talk about it and have a discussion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's aware of her own biases and will put that forth and then begin to break down why you off. You understand? Hey man, I'm telling y'all. So when Dr. O get here, don't be surprised when I sit back there and I shut up. Period. That's all I got to say about that, but thank you for the compliment. I suggest you get a passport.
I was gonna say, if it's like that, damn, I might have throat cancer that day.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man.
Talk today.
I'm telling you, man. I think I'm
That's what I
lying.
do anyways. When I
I'm
know,
telling y'all, man.
if I don't know what the hell what people are talking about, I just want to sit back and listen. And
Right,
learn.
exactly.
I don't have nothing to say.
And that's what you
Like,
should do, man.
But that's like we always say, we not just here to talk, we here to learn too.
Right,
so
right.
hopefully
Absolutely.
until
that'll.
I know I can get a little jab in,
That's it.
then
That's
I'll
it.
say what I got to say and hope that they're gonna look at me like,
This ain't no fight. I'm
Stay this fuck up.
point
Shut-
sparring
like
over
a
here.
shut
Ain't nobody holding no knockout. I'm just point
you know, it's
sparring.
like, you actually try to
I'm
jab.
trying to make Rick in the bill.
So
Yes, sir.
That's good. That's nice. Yeah, we can't wait.
Bobby Blackhand, the cameraman, is making us shut it down.
That's
So,
what's up. That's what's up.
So right now he the smartest one. We just gonna be quiet.
so listen, folks. Y'all make sure that y'all go to the website, The Daily Smoke. That's THA Daily Smoke. Y'all go check out everything Daily Smoke on there. Every social media, everything that y'all want to know about the Daily Smoke, you can get through it from the website. All right? And don't forget to go on there, go towards the bottom, and look for Stand for the Silent. And go to that website and read some of the things that you find on that website. And if you find it in your heart,
That part.
please make a donation.
Be careful
All right?
what you say.
Please
That
make a
part.
donation.
We'll try if we can,
Be careful
Dr. O.
what you say.
Yes.
What's the red tape? See?
The red
Jada-
tape.
that's what I'm
Jada
saying.
Pinkett. Jada
Oh, okay.
Pinkett.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
See? See? See?
That's cool.
That's good though, because
See?
they're famous
Yeah.
already, so she
Oh,
put
yeah.
us up there with
Right,
them.
right. You know
Cool.
what I'm
Look,
saying?
I just threw it out there. See? I'm telling y'all. Okay. All right. You've been warned, homies. Okay.
All right,
This is
man.
the wolf thing.
Bobby giving me the evil eye,
Oh,
dog.
damn.
So we're gonna go ahead and shut it down, people. We love y'all, man. We thank y'all for being here. We hope y'all learned something. I know each one of us has learned
enough.
something. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
for
saying? And we will continue this discussion. All right. So y'all just be looking out when that's gonna happen. All right. And I'm your boy Big Ruck,
Brother Los.
Bobby Blackhand,
Brother Jam.
Ronnie J.
His.
We are the Daily Smoke people. We love y'all and we are out.
Peace.
Peace.
We